Hello, and welcome to the Channel of Stories. Dear listeners, before we start the story, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like and share in the comments where you are from. Thank you. Here we go.
Okay, so this all started with a tuxedo I didn't want to wear. It was a charity gala, one of those must-attend events for tech founders who want to look generous while rubbing elbows with venture capitalists and politicians. The kind with expensive champagne and networking opportunities that turn into NDA-cloaked mergers a few months later. It was being held at the Fairmont, of course, chandelier lit, violin hummed, self-congratulatory as hell. I wasn't looking forward to it. My assistant, Caroline, noticed. She told me, half joking, half serious, that I needed a +1. People are gonna assume you're either dying of loneliness or scandalously single. Neither is good for optics, she said. And she wasn't wrong. The thought of standing next to a glass wall holding a flat soda while reporters asked if I was pivoting into AI made my skin crawl. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called an escort agency. Not just any agency, this was high-end. Like, background checks on both sides high-end. The intake process was more thorough than a seed funding round. I had to sign a 19-page NDA and speak to someone who sounded like they ran MI6. Everything was discreet. Cold. Efficient. Until I met Lena. She walked into the marble lobby in a red silk dress and a tan trench coat, and I swear the whole space went quiet for half a second. It wasn't just the way she looked, though, yeah, she looked like she belonged in a noir film, cigarette smoke curling from her lips, jazz on the radio. It was the way she moved, like she didn't care what anyone thought. She looked at me and said, "You clean up better than your LinkedIn profile suggests." And I laughed. Actually laughed. The evening that followed felt surreal. She wasn't just beautiful, she was sharp, dry, devastatingly quick. We talked about literature. She casually brought up Murakami. Then she roasted half the attendees in my ear, including the CEO of Uber, who heard her and laughed. I remember thinking, this woman has absolutely nothing to prove. And I loved that. We were supposed to part ways after the gala. That was the agreement. She'd get in a car. I'd go home. But instead, we found ourselves walking through North Beach, shoes in hand, debating whether pineapple belonged on pizza and whether time travel films could ever be done well. She told me she grew up in Fresno. Dropped out of grad school. Didn't say why. Said she got into companionship work because it made her feel in control of her own narrative. I didn't push. We sat on a bench eating slices at 1:52 a.m. It didn't feel like a transaction. It felt like a beginning. I booked her again the next week. Not for another gala. Not for anything flashy. Just dinner. I told myself it was curiosity, that I wanted to understand the appeal of this kind of companionship. But that wasn't it. I just wanted to see her again. She showed up at this tiny Italian place in Hayes Valley wearing jeans, sneakers, and a sweatshirt that said, "Existentially tired." No red silk. No trench coat. And still, she owned the room. We talked for hours. She told me how she once spent a summer reading every Kurt Vonnegut novel in a trailer with no air conditioning. How she used to write poetry before she learned it didn't pay the rent. She asked me questions no one ever asked, about failure, about my mom, about what scared me most that wasn't dying. No one talks like that anymore. I didn't touch her. Not even a kiss on the cheek when we parted. It wasn't about sex. And that became a pattern. We went to dive bars. Walked around the marina. She once convinced me to sneak into a rooftop pool downtown just to stargaze. We talked about absurd things, the ethics of AI-generated art, our worst childhood injuries, whether aliens would understand sarcasm. Each time, I thought it would be the last. And each time, I booked her again. I didn't know the rules. I wasn't sure there were any. I wasn't trying to save her. I didn't even want to define what we were. But I started looking forward to her messages more than my Monday investor updates. I started listening for her laugh like it was music I didn't realize I'd been missing. She once asked, half smiling, "Do you always fall for people you can't have?" I said, "I didn't plan to fall at all." She didn't respond. Just sipped her drink and changed the subject. And still, I booked her again. I told myself it was harmless. But it wasn't harmless. Not anymore. It was raining the night everything changed. Not a dramatic storm, just that soft, lingering drizzle San Francisco does so well. We were at my apartment, watching a conspiracy documentary about JFK and UFOs. She was curled up on my couch in sweatpants, no makeup, hair in a bun, eating leftover Thai food straight from the container. It felt weirdly domestic. Too easy. At one point, she laughed at something in the documentary, something ridiculous about telepathy and aliens, and she turned to say something, but the words didn't come. She just looked at me. And then she kissed me. Slow. Uncertain at first, like she was testing to see if I'd flinch. I didn't. I kissed her back. Carefully. Trying to stay in the moment without pushing it forward. Her hands were cold. Her lips were soft. The kiss wasn't sexy, it was honest. Vulnerable. Like she was giving me a secret, and she didn't know how I'd hold it. When she pulled away, her eyes lingered on mine for a long second. Then she said it, not like a warning, but like a truth already written. "Don't fall in love with me. I'm not that girl." She said it casually, but her voice cracked on love. And I knew, in that moment, she was already a part of me. I had already fallen. Not from lust or loneliness. From the way she saw the world, and how she made me feel like I wasn't alone inside my own head. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded, heart pounding. She got up and grabbed her coat. "Same time next week?" she asked, like nothing had happened. I nodded again. And she was gone. The silence she left behind was louder than anything I'd heard in months. The week that followed was chaos, not in my work life, but inside me. I tried to play it cool. I told myself the kiss didn't mean anything. That it was probably a mistake. But my hands remembered the shape of her face, and every quiet moment felt like it was still echoing with her. Then she dropped the bomb. We were walking near the Embarcadero after dinner, casual as ever, when she said, "I'm leaving the business." I blinked. "What?" "I've been saving. A lot. For years. I'm almost there. Thinking of moving to New Mexico. Start clean. No NDAs. No games." She said it like she was talking about the weather. But my stomach dropped. I didn't know what to say. I panicked. I offered to help. Said she could stay at my place, that I could cover rent or whatever she needed until she figured it out. It wasn't pity. It wasn't possession. At least, I didn't think it was. But that's not how she took it. She stopped walking. "You don't get to do that," she said. "Do what?" "Write my ending. Rescue me. Make me your reformation project. I'm not your startup." I tried to explain. Said it wasn't like that. But she was already shaking her head. "You're a good guy," she said. "But I've seen how this story ends. I lose myself. You get bored or guilty. And I'm done with that." She turned and walked away. And just like that, she was gone. No texts. No calls. For 2 whole weeks, nothing. I kept thinking, maybe she was right. Maybe I was trying to make her fit some narrative I needed, some redemption arc where I became the guy who loved the woman no one else saw. But at night, I still set 2 cups on the counter. Just in case. It was a Thursday. Ordinary on the surface, endless Zoom calls, a lunch I didn't remember eating, emails blurring into static. I was trying not to think about her, and failing with every breath. Then Caroline buzzed in through the office intercom. "There's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. Says you'll know." I stepped into the lobby expecting. I don't know what I expected. But there she was. Lena. No makeup. Hair pulled into a messy bun. A gray hoodie 3 sizes too big. Sneakers. And a coffee in her hand, my usual order. She looked like sleep deprivation and second thoughts. But when our eyes met, something softened. She stepped forward and handed me the coffee without speaking. Then she said, quietly, "I don't need your money." My chest tightened. I waited. "But maybe. I want your time." Then, just once, she kissed me. Lightly. Like punctuation on a sentence she hadn't finished writing. And she left. Just like that. She didn't wait for an answer. She didn't ask for a plan. She just showed up, gave me hope, and vanished again. But it changed everything. I didn't move for a full minute after she walked out. I held the coffee until it went cold. Not because I was afraid she'd disappear again. But because I finally understood what she meant. She didn't want to be saved. She wanted to be chosen, not out of pity or power, but love. On her own terms. After she left my office, I spent an hour staring at my ceiling like it had answers. The kiss was short, barely even a kiss, but I kept replaying it, like maybe I missed some hidden code. I kept wondering, was that goodbye? Was it permission to try again? Was it hope? I drafted texts. So many. "You're all I think about." Delete. "Can we talk?" Delete. "I miss your laugh and your rants about why moon signs matter." Delete. I knew words wouldn't fix this. She didn't want to be wooed with charm or chased like some trope in a Netflix rom-com, and still, I wanted to chase her anyway. Because it wasn't just about her anymore. It was who I was when I was around her. Less filtered. Less performative. I felt like a human being instead of a machine that spits out pitch decks and timelines. At work, people noticed I was off. Distracted. Short-tempered. Caroline told me I looked like a startup post-acquisition, soulless and disoriented. She wasn't wrong. I kept thinking back to that first walk through North Beach. The way she talked about time like it owed her something. How she let the night wrap around us like a secret. I hadn't felt that alive in years. So I started walking again. At night, after the meetings and deadlines. I'd take the same route we did, past the bookstore she teased me for never entering, by the bar with the jukebox that only played Bowie, to the exact bench where we shared greasy pizza and strange stories at 2 a.m. I brought a slice. Sat down. Waited. She didn't come. But I left the other slice on the bench beside me anyway. Not as a gesture. As a memory, hoping to become real again. I kept walking North Beach every night after that. Same path. Same bench. One slice for me. One for her. It became a ritual. Not because I expected her to show up, not exactly, but because it made me feel closer to something I didn't want to lose. Like I was writing in the margins of a story we hadn't finished. On the 5th night, just after 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. One new message. That was my favorite bench. And anchovies? Really? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. It wasn't just the words, it was the timing. The tone. The way she knew. I didn't even care about the anchovies jab. She had seen the slice. Or maybe she hadn't. Maybe she'd just known I'd be there. I typed back. I figured you'd come if I got the toppings wrong enough. 3 dots. Then none. Then 3 again. Then. You still talk too much. An hour later, she showed up. No dramatic entrance. No red silk. Just a hoodie, hands in her pockets, wind teasing loose strands of her hair. She sat beside me without a word. Took the slice. Took a bite. Chewed, swallowed, then said, "Still gross." I laughed. Couldn't stop. Not because it was funny, because she was here. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I'm scared." And I said the only true thing I knew in that moment. Me too. We didn't make promises. Didn't name anything. We just sat there, letting the night hold us. Until the sky began to glow. The next morning, I woke up to a message. Not long. Not complicated. Just. "Can I see you tonight?" I didn't even think. Just replied. Anytime. That night, she came to my place. Not as Lena the escort. Not as the woman I'd hired or the dream I'd been chasing. Just her. We didn't talk much. We watched something dumb on Netflix, halfway through a bag of chips neither of us admitted was stale. She curled up against me like it was the most natural thing in the world. Eventually, I asked, "So what does this mean?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "It means I don't want to pretend anymore." And for the first time, we didn't pretend. She stayed the night. No masks. No walls. Just her head on my chest and the rhythmic proof that we were both still figuring it out. There was no big speech. No, "I love you." But it felt more honest than anything I'd ever known. Because she could have left. And she didn't. Because I could have tried to fix it. And I didn't. We just stayed. 2 people, scared and messy and trying. In the quiet, I thought, this is how things begin. Not with fireworks. With presence. Lena didn't move in. There was no dramatic suitcase moment or toothbrush in the cup. But she started showing up more. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes with nothing. Sometimes she'd come just to sit with me and write in silence while I worked. No performance. No expectation. It felt sacred. One night, she brought over an old notebook, battered, full of messy handwriting and half-started poems. "I used to write before all this," she said. Then I stopped. I asked if I could read something. She shook her head. Not yet. But she left the notebook anyway. That was the night I knew I loved her. Not because she gave me a piece of herself, but because she trusted me to hold it without opening it. We started taking walks again. Sometimes to the pier, sometimes nowhere. She'd point out things I never noticed, cracks in old bricks, dogs that looked like their owners, the smell of bakeries just before closing. She made the world louder. More vivid. One night, sitting on that same bench in North Beach, she asked, "What would you have done if I never texted you?" "Come back every night," I said. Until I ran out of excuses or slices. She didn't say anything. Just leaned into me. We watched the fog roll in. The lights of the city blinking through it like stars caught between breaths. It wasn't a relationship. It wasn't not. It was something else entirely. And maybe that was enough. Life didn't change overnight. There was no movie montage. No swelling music. Just small shifts. Her toothbrush eventually appeared beside mine. One day, without saying anything, she left a pair of sneakers by the door. And one morning, she woke up before me and made coffee. Badly. But it was the first time someone had done that for me in years. We didn't label it. Didn't try to fit it into a shape people would understand. But we kept showing up. She still had bad days, days when she disappeared into herself, when she didn't want to talk or be touched. I learned to leave her tea, quietly. She learned to tell me when she was spiraling, without shame. We made rules. No fixing each other. No pretending. No past tense love, only present. She went back to writing. Eventually, she let me read something. It was a poem. Untitled. A single page. About a man who left warm slices on cold benches because he didn't know how else to say, "I'm still here." I framed it. She rolled her eyes, but I caught her smiling at it later. We never had a define the relationship talk. We didn't need one. We were writing something better, day by day, choice by choice. Not a love story built on fantasy. But one built on presence. And when people asked how we met, I'd shrug and say, North Beach. Late. Slice shop. And she'd say, it's a long story. And we'd laugh. Because we both knew the truth. The best stories aren't made of perfect lines. They're written in the margins, between broken things. And if you're lucky, they rewrite you, too.